Hello, everybody. Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas here. A little video I'm going to do, and what I want to talk about today is the top suspects for the shooter or the would-be killer. You know, the evidence is definitive that I wasn't shot with my gun, and that means somebody came to my home and shot me. And there are some suspects. This violent crime, home invasion, capital attempted murder could be solved, and because there's plenty of evidence here, and I think if you solve that, then you'll solve all the other. You'll solve other murders, the underground homes, the murder of Mike Lawhon, the murder of the little girl. The connections possibly, showing Haley Dunn and her mom, maybe her dad, and even the PI was here. And just a whole, all them other homes that are rigged. People are reporting people in the attic. And all you have to do is come solve this violent crime. And there's plenty of evidence. So what we're going to look at is the top suspects for the would-be killer, aka for the shooter, aka would-be killer. Okay, and so let a Facebook post here, and that's where I started, and I used this picture here on the bottom, and this was taken in my hallway or guest bathroom, inside the bathroom, looking down the hallway, and what I'm pointing with the arrow is the pry marks on the top inside door jamb. Okay, I found them on there after I returned from the hospital, and that's what told me that a burglar was trapped in that bathroom on the day that I was shot. And I had been reporting repeated burglaries to my house. So my first report for a burglary was 14 months before I was ambushed and shot, with burglar alarms going off in my attic. And I had tie-wired the door shut, trying to compartment my house and figure out where they were coming in at, and I trapped a burglar in there and didn't know it. I'm sure the police that were working with the burglars, part of the crime ring, they couldn't arrest this criminal, this burglar in the bathroom, because if it did, it would expose the underground homes, it exposed the tunnels and all the other crimes and all the other murders, right? And so that that really kind of put them in a bind there, because they are working with the burglars that I was reporting to them. That's the irony of the whole thing, is that I'm going to the police expecting the police to arrest the criminals, and the police were working with the criminals. Now, not all of them. I'm a lifelong supporter of police, but I'm not so naive to think that all police are good. And we have a corruption problem. It's some corrupt police that were working with the burglars. So here, let's go over this Facebook post for today. And I said, last year, Homeland Security Agent Paul advised me to go see the FBI about the many nonstop crimes and murders as he was passing the buck and obstructing justice. And on that day was July 2nd, 2019. That was the day that we went behind Home Depot, and I showed him where I believe the human trafficking murder tunnels were at back there, And so... and it's also the same day that Vice President Pence mysteriously turned around in the air and flew back to Washington for an unknown emergency. I suspected it was because of what was going on here at my house. Anyways, I went to the Midland FBI office as advised by the Homeland Security agent, and the FBI agent there, he refused to give me his name. I asked him multiple times, "What's your name?" And he said, "You can just call me Duty Agent." And obviously, there's a reason why this law enforcement officer didn't want to give me his name. So I'm sitting there telling him my story. I provided him that large packet of evidence, the same evidence I'd provided Homeland Security, and it would solve multiple murders and stop his crime ring. But while there, he's sitting there messing around on his phone, and he pulls up this picture on his phone. I didn't show him where it was at. We hadn't even talked about it or nothing. He pulled it up. He already knew about it, and that's what I wrote. He somehow magically knew about this picture, which proved that a burglar was trapped in my bathroom on the day that I was shot and left for dead inside my own home. I think that's a huge clue. There was something about this picture, and this FBI agent already knowing about it. And so I guess that certain law enforcement may have tried to use this trap burglar as an excuse to try to murder me inside my home, because if they had done their job and arrested this criminal, then it would expose the fact they were working with the burglars that had been breaking into my home and the many other homes that have been rigged by this murderous crime ring. Now remember, I was shot with burglar alarms gone off the attic. Now identified homeowners all over Midland, Odessa, Texas, and many other states reporting people in the attic. And these crimes are all, this is organized crime, widespread racketeering organized crime with significant public corruption, police corruption. And my last two paragraphs, think of the irony of being murdered, in your own home for reporting crimes to police who were secretly involved in committing the crimes. And even when they get caught, nothing changes thanks to other police protecting them and the press hiding the truth and the facts from the public. This should be a national news story long time ago. I mean, all these homeowners reporting people in the attic and I'm ambushed and shot with burglar alarms going to my attic. That should be a national news story. I'm supposed to be dead right now, just like the last homeowner who we can be sure was murdered here before me. And that was Mike Law. Okay. And so that's my first comment there. This Facebook friend, Pamela Hill, and she writes, that does not surprise me. Okay. And so I'm going to go on with my second comment down. And I wrote, I didn't get the police report for the night of the murder attempt until 2019, and I was shot in 2012, okay? 7 years later, as it was illegally withheld from me. It was subpoenaed, that's why, and they illegally withheld it even when it was subpoenaed. When I did get it, it showed me that MPD, Midland Police Department, Lieutenant Dickey was inside my home at 11:05 p.m., but he wasn't seen arriving on the security cameras that saw Woodward and Naylor 4 minutes earlier at 11:01 p.m. I had crawled out 19 minutes before that at 10:42. This told me he and some other police were under my home and had came in from the now removed trapdoor that the ex-wife had already told me about and from where I'd been ambushed and shot. There was no other way into my home. All my other doors were secured because of these repeated burglaries to my house. It makes sense that it was Lieutenant Dickey that let out or freed the trapped burglar who was in the bathroom. Because remember, I had tie-wired the door shut. That burglar was still trapped when I was shot, right? So I think Lieutenant Dickey probably let out the trapped burglar. As I was said, the police were working with the burglars, and I was reporting burglaries to the police. And who was in the bathroom? It may have been one of them police that tried to murder me inside my home, but because of it. And so here, top suspects for the would-be killer or the shooter, one of them is Lieutenant Dickey right here. He's a top suspect for a would-be killer in Midland, Texas. And, and so it needs to be investigated for that and asked, very seriously look at evidence and have charges filed on him. Were you under Mr. Webb's home? Did you come in? Did you try to murder Mr. Webb? Did you murder the homeowner before him? How many people have you murdered? How many times have you lied on police reports? How many times have you tampered with evidence while you pretended to be an upholder of the law, but you were really a criminal working with a crime ring, right? These are questions to be asked. And what I'm showing here from my front security cameras, it saw Woodward and Naylor arriving. Now, keep in mind, they didn't get identified for 6 years, okay? And, one of them's dead, but it's time-stamped, so we know that they got there at 11:01, and here on the police report that was illegally withheld, it come in at 11:05, 4 minutes later, and Dickey was not seen arriving, okay? And so top suspect for the would-be killer, Lieutenant Dickey. My next one. In fact, there were 5 Midland police officers listed on that police report as being at my home when they were not seen arriving on the security cameras. They were Davis, Dickey, Chatwell, Angel, and Hale. One of them may have been the shooter, aka would-be killer. Okay, I focused on Dickey because I have that comment saying he was inside my home. No one in the house, inside, and lots of odd things. 11:05. That was Dickey in my house. But also here, you can see where it says on scene was Matt Davis, Dylan Hale, Angel, and as I said a while ago, Chatwell, Davis, Dickey, Chatwell, Angel, and Hale. And this is before my camera was disabled. That's why I have this picture, because it's timestamped. This was my security camera, and they turned it around to look at the wall. And that's why this is actually a light fixture, and the camera's looking at the light fixture. It was looking at them, right? And so it showed them arriving on camera, and then they disabled the camera. But before they disabled it, the police report showed me them other police were at my house, and they wasn't seen arriving. The only two seen arriving was Woodward and Naylor. So other top suspects for would-be killers, or shooter, aka would-be killers, is Davis, Dickey, Chatwell, Angel, and Hale. Some very, very serious questions need to be asked of them police officers. Were you were you secret criminals working with burglars, breaking into homes all over Midland, Odessa? Did you help murder the last homeowner? How many times have you falsified evidence? How many times have you lied on police reports? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because here's the facts. This is the evidence showing that what happened there. My next comment: former Martin County Sheriff John Woodward and the late Midland County Deputy Mike Naylor were seen arriving on the security camera 19 minutes after I crawled out and left, but their names were not on the long withheld police report. It makes sense. They were also under my home, and maybe one of them was the shooter. Okay. And the reason we know they were there is because of the private investigator I paid when I offered the $2,000 reward. Now, they had been caught on camera, and so I knew they were here. I just didn't know who they were. Were they even police? Maybe they're criminals dressed like police. We knew they were involved in a murder attempt. I just didn't know who they were for 6 years. And here I am crawling out. I had been ambushed and shot with my phone lines cut. Notice my lights go off on my vehicle. It's suspected somebody's out there in that car. Okay, as I'm crawling out, I pull myself in my truck and I drive to the 7-Eleven. Okay, and in an attempt to save my life, God saved my life. I give Him all the praise and glory there. It was really a miracle. They cut my phone line, shot me from point blank range directly in an artery. Listening to me scream for help, waiting for me to die. These cold-blooded killers here. Okay, so here's the first two police arriving. We see it on the security camera. There's the first one. There's the second one. Okay. And we're going to see them get out of their car here in a minute. You can see the car. 6 years, I had this video, and I didn't know who they were, right? Ain't that incredible? There they are right there. And it was 2 or 3 years later, I figured, wait, they're wearing tan uniforms. So that, they must be sheriff. And sure enough, first one showed up was Martin County Sheriff. And that's a whole nother county. This is Midland County. Nobody's ever explained how a Martin County Sheriff showed up to my home minutes after a home invasion, capital murder attempt, that where these cold-blooded killers cut my phone lines and shot me and left me die. Listen to me scream for help, and he just magically shows up from a whole nother county at my home. Just imagine that. So more suspects for the shooter, would-be killers, is former Martin County Sheriff John Woodward, who now I believe is a convicted felon, and the late Midland County Deputy Mike Naylor, who died in the line of duty in 2014. Some people have wondered if Naylor wasn't murdered by some of these secret police that were trying to cover up the crimes here, and maybe he was going to snitch on them and talk, but that's still unknown, Maybe there's another murder they're involved in. Here's the next one, okay. MPD Detective Rosie Rodriguez, who I found out was a lifelong friend of the ex-wife that is alleged to be involved in the shooting and was the primary beneficiary on the life insurance, met me at the 7-Eleven minutes after I crawled out, because I crawled out and I drove the 7-Eleven, and that's a convenience store, and then said she wasn't there on the police reports. I was there. She climbed in the truck with me. She was seen playing in my stolen cell phone, Rosie was, behind my nightstand on one of the security camera pictures, and they had tried to disable that bedroom camera and accidentally started it. The log file shows that. And and she perjured herself in court. There's another crime, aggravated felony perjury, at the protective order hearing when she said that there was a tripwire attached to my gun. And the facts are that, out of a dozen police, the only police officer who said there was a tripwire was Rosie Rodriguez, and that included CSI Marty Barrett that said he picked up my gun from my home. There's no tripwire checked into evidence. None of the other dozen police mention a tripwire. And the proof shows I wasn't even shot with my gun. Rosie Rodriguez lied under oath in court at that protective order hearing, and that's a fact. And that's only one of them, right? As I also mentioned, she's seen planting that stolen cell phone. And here's another factoid here. There was 2 entries to my house. One of them happened just a few hours after I'm shot on 129 right here, okay? And Rosie is seen inside my home then, okay? They were the secret police that it took, 6 years, 7 years to get identified. 6 years, the private investigator named them, okay? And 7th year is when I got the police report. And then here was the second entry. They didn't know the camera was going on February 1st, 3 days later. It's believed that by this time they had been staging the crime scene. They'd already poured concrete and covered up the now removed trap door and all that, okay? And here's Rosie pretending that this was her first entry to the house. The only police officer that was seen at my house on both these 2 entries was Rosie Rodriguez. And as I said, she was the lifelong friend of the ex-wife that was a primary beneficiary that's alleged to be involved in the shooting. The ex-wife's former boyfriend said, that he overheard her planning my murder with her corrupt police friends. I assume it was Rosie, And so, once again, one of our top suspects for the shooter, aka would-be killers, is Rosie Rodriguez. Real police, the ones that don't sneak into homes and murder citizens that are reporting crimes, need to be asking these questions. I know you don't want to arrest another police officer, but if they're breaking into private homes and murdering people, then they're the ones that made the choice to become the lawbreakers. That's all there is to it. Here's our next suspect. MPD officer April Chandler lied on the police report and said that she climbed in my truck and gave me first aid when it was Rosie Rodriguez that had done that. She is seen standing next to Rosie when she planted my stolen cell phone behind my nightstand, and April Chandler created the lie that stated I was a paranoid schizophrenic on police reports when I was cleared by mental health at the hospital and the survivor of a home invasion and murder attempt, okay? So maybe MPD Officer April Chandler was the shooter, aka would-be killer. So once again, here's the bedroom camera that they tried to disable. And then there's April Chandler with her hand in the booty bag. Evidence was stolen that night. My spare shotgun shells from my closet were stolen. And they planted my stolen cell phone behind this nightstand over here. And there's Rosie Rodriguez next to her partner in crime. Okay. And what I'm showing here is on this meme right here, or meme, is some documentation, timestamp documentation at the hospital at 12:03. The ER nurse, Cresswell, documents me telling Rosie Rodriguez that I was talking on a white voice recorder in case something happens to me and saying what they were doing in my house. I have proof. Just go look. There's proof. I didn't know that corrupt police were involved. I'm telling police that it may have been the would-be killers, right, that tried to murder me in my home, that there was proof at my house, and they're like, oh, we better go steal the proof, that Buddy told us about, right? And so here, April Chandler, I find this in the police reports, in the information report under the her log file for April Chandler. And Chandler says Buddy had a .22 rifle in the bedroom by the bed that was taken for safekeeping and logged into MPD evidence, as well as a single-shot revolver and the voice recorder. Okay, so I found that and I'm going, oh, wait a minute. Okay, I told them there was a voice recorder. The voice recorder is important because it recorded the burglar alarms going off in the attic. That proved I was shot during a home invasion. Okay, because they're passing off this lie saying, oh, he's crazy, he shot himself, and no, I didn't shoot myself. I was under a home invasion. Burglar alarms going in the attic. Now we know there's a burglar trapped in the bathroom, And so, but Chandler said she found it. Well, I was going through the evidence logs, and there was no voice recorder in the evidence logs. What I did find is the 222s that Chandler said she found along with the voice recorder. They were there, okay? And what happened, it looks like she gave them to Matt Davis, okay? He was the sergeant. He's one of them secret police, okay? And he was her boss or whatever. And so I suspected that maybe Chandler gave the voice recorder to Matt Davis, and Matt Davis stole the voice recorder, the proof that I told him about. And actually, last year, I got a message on my YouTube channel from a Matthew Davis saying, I stole the proof, buddy, and nobody's ever going to find out. I made a video about that, right? But that's what I'm talking here. I made a big point about the stolen voice recorder, put Midland police stealing evidence to cover up a capital attempted murder, and it was about 2 years later that the voice recorder magically gets checked into evidence by Matt Davis, okay? And then he quits the police department, okay? That was 2 years after I survived the murder attempt, So, that's what happened. But anyway, you can see Chandler's part in tampering with evidence in a premeditated home invasion, capital attempted murder, okay? So there's your next top suspects for the shooter, aka would-be killer, is April Chandler. Real legitimate police need to ask her some questions, okay? Recent sheriff candidate Joe Lozano told me that the underground homes here was the hideout for the late Sheriff Gary Painter, so maybe he was under my home that night and he tried to murder me, okay? So there's another one. We're looking at top suspects for the shooter, the would-be killer, okay? The reason that I'm crippled for life, living under the threat of death now, all these years later, okay? And so this is just a clip from my secretly recorded Joe Lozano, who was running for sheriff. See if we can hear this. I think I got it muted.
Three-bedroom underground homes that are 25 foot deep, and each of them cost over $1 million.
There we go. Okay, I'm on the phone. I'm talking to Joe Lozano.
Seen your son, I thought, I wanted to reach out to you. I don't know if did your son pass on that information?
That's how I found out about you.
Okay. I secretly recorded a woman on the phone who told me there were 4 three-bedroom underground homes that are 25 foot deep, and each of them cost over $1 million. She told me they were having pedophile parties in these underground homes. This is posted to my YouTube channel, that phone call. Another woman told me that she worked on the underground project, which was finished in 1987 while Bush was vice president. The Bushes are from Midland and were in the oil field business. She said the total project cost was $7.35 million. I have a screenshot of her telling me this. A guy named Ricky Ronaldo tells me that he used to live in my home, and him and his brother used to go in the tunnels under it. I have a screenshot of him saying this. A woman named Rhonda Denman Rogers tells me that the underground facility is a half block away, and I also have a screenshot of this statement. She didn't say it was 1.5 blocks, so she knew exactly where it was at.
Buddy,
Yeah.
buddy, that was Painter's hideout thing. Okay? And Hale, he's a deputy now, but in the county sheriff's department.
Okay, so yeah, Hale was one of them names earlier, if you remember. So I secretly recorded Joe Lozano, who was running for Midland Sheriff earlier this year, telling me that Sheriff Painter, the late Sheriff Painter, he died last year, was, the hideout. He used to hang out in these underground homes here. And so there's your next top suspect for the would-be killer. Of course, we can't ask Gary Painter because he's no longer alive, and so I guess the same philosophy on Naylor and Chad Simpson too, because Chad was one of the secret police in my home, that's also dead. He died 2 months after Naylor. Midland K-9 police officer Chad Simpson. He should be another. I didn't put him in here, but he should be another suspect. Maybe they were murdered by the other secret police because they're trying to cover up, the loose ends, because this is a major crime operation that's going on here. Okay, my next one, based on evidence found, the would-be killer, parked in the Home Depot parking lot, came to my home from a tunnel behind Home Depot that is now filled with concrete, thanks to Homeland Security, and possibly had a sex or swingers party going on in the underground homes. Either the one in my backyard, the one that's said to be a half block away, or one of the other 2 whose locations are still unknown. I've suspected where another one is. Actually, I've got a video on that too. This is where it's believed the old show parties were held in 2010 that Angie was at, my friend, and where the young girl was murdered whose remains were found outside of Midland in 2013. I just believe that them remains found in 2013 was the girl that Angie told me about was murdered at the old show party in 2010. It's very possible that Mike Lawhon, the previous owner of my house, his killers used those same tunnels, as it's believed he was murdered here at this house the week before the 2008 oil show started. A neighbor told me twice that Mike died in this house. Okay, so here's a Google map, the large map, 50,000 foot view, and here's the big Midland Home Depot store. Okay, big parking lot here. I'm suspecting they were parking here, and the excuse was, if you see a lot of cars in the parking lot late at night, it's because we're stalking. Okay, and so they're parking here, going underground somewhere in the store, and then there was a tunnel right here, it looks like, because you can see where the ground was cut, the asphalt's a different color behind Home Depot, going directly towards my house. Okay, and remember, this is where I'm ambushed and shot by somebody under my home in 2012, and this home is where Mike Lawhon died at, in 2008, according to the neighbor and according to the Odessa American's second death notice. The first one said he died in Fort Worth. Their second revised death notice said he died at his residence. Okay. In the backyards where one of the underground homes is believed to be at, the 3-bedroom, $1 million, buried 25 foot deep, that's believed where the oil show parties. I'm thinking there was a party going on. Actually, the ex-wife had told me in so many words, a lot of people were here on the night I shot. She said, you don't know how many lives you ruin with your idiocy, and I think it was a reference to, oh, you trapped a burglar during the home invasion. That was my idiocy. That, I recognized that there was a home invasion going on, and I had unknowingly trapped that burglar, and so all them people's lives that were in my underground home in the backyard that I didn't know about, maybe having a sex party under there, their lives are now ruined because now they're an accessory to capital attempted murder, right? I mean, they were there on my property. They were with the murder party, right? And if they don't report that as required by law, then they can be charged, with the capital attempted murder because, 5 people breaking home, one person shoots a homeowner, all 5 get charged, I mean, so however many people's there, they all get charged with it unless they go report that, very loudly, very loud. If I was them, I would be telling everybody I know, I was there, here's where we come in, I didn't plan on killing Buddy, and point the finger at the person that did, here are the people that did. Over here, Ron and Denman Rogers told me underground home was a half block away, underground facility, and I suspected it was in this empty lot right here next to this home owned by Concho Safety Man, okay? And that home had the same mortar problem as my home had. That's one reason, the mortar problem suspected being from dug under the home, and then also has a water well, and this one has a water well near it. So that's the reason I'm figuring that's where these top suspects for the would-be killers is. And so there's some of your suspects. The police report that I got in 2019, there was 11 police caught on camera, got identified in 2018 when offered the reward. 6 of them were missing from the from that report. And so there's other ones there that could be. It's not saying that these are the shooter, but obviously they're involved. And when I started this video, then as I was saying, you solve this, and then you probably solve the murder of Mike Lawhon. You solve the murder of the little girl at the oil show party. You find out who's having sex with little children underground here, right, at the pedophile parties, and then all these other homeowners reporting these burglaries and people in the attic. We solve all them crimes too. There's no telling how many murders we're going to solve if you just, if real police will just do their job. I tell you what I'm going to do here. Let's just walk in there and look at that bathroom here. Because what had happened on the day that of the murder attempt, I figured out that somebody's in my house, and I tie-wired these doors shut physically with a piece of wire. Okay, I didn't know it. I trapped a burglar in here, and I'm on the other side of the door with a gun. So that's a dire situation for them. Okay, so they're in this bathroom right here. This is the guest bathroom, and when I come back from the hospital, here's what I found. I'm gonna show you. Okay. See them pry marks? And I painted this house when I first got here. That happened, during the time I was in the hospital, and I believe it happened just minutes after I was ambushed and shot, because I'm ambushed and shot and this burglar's still trapped in this bathroom, and I'm sure they're panicking trying to get out of here, and then we ask, well, who let out the burglar? And I think it was Lieutenant Dickey or one of them other five, or these top suspects. It was these police that let out the trap burglar, because they were working with the burglars and I was reporting the burglaries to them. See the irony? Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas.